So I want to talk about something that is somewhat related to the previous speakdom that I did. The previous one that I did was about fake snakes and people who are phony, and you see it all the time on YouTube. They pretend to be happy all the time and all cheerful, but really a lot of times, you're hiding the tears of a clown. I don't mean that in an insulting way necessarily, but that video was about people who are purposely two-faced. And not everyone who's fake positive or phony positive really is two-faced. A lot of times what happens is people act positive because they're masking some kind of pain or because they want to use it as sort of a therapeutic type of thing. But in some cases, people are genuinely positive. But what I wanted to talk about here was this whole myth about always being positive versus always being negative. I seem to be somewhat of a grounded individual, and I do believe in the power of positive thinking, and I will spread that message out to you. If you think positive, if you try to focus on the positive, then good things will happen to you, and you'll be more appreciative of these good things that happen. I do definitely believe that, and I do believe in spreading a positive message as far as equality goes in the world, as far as how to treat people. But the reality is that we as human beings just cannot follow that message 100%. It's just literally not impossible, and I'm going to explain to you why. I'm going to actually hit you with some real science right here to explain why. Now, that being said, I remember John Lennon. I think John Lennon from the Beatles once said, we're all hypocrites at heart. And there's truth to that in a way. I don't like hypocrites, but in some ways, every human being is a hypocrite because sometimes we preach positive messages while we do negative things. And I've done it before too. Like sometimes, and I haven't done this example I'm about to give you, but sometimes you'll have people who go to the strip club on Saturday, then go to church on Sunday. And they'll either ask for forgiveness then, or they will just say, well, let me just go to make myself feel better. And we do this all the time. Like, we as human beings do this all the time. We do bad things, then we feel guilty, then we do good things to make up for it. All the time. People do it all the time. And really, to me, if you're doing something good, even if you're doing it for reasons that are, just to make up for you doing bad things, I don't think that's a bad thing at all. I think that's a good thing because think about it. Let's say that you do something you feel bad about, but the next day you do something for someone, a nice thing, and you make their day. At the end of the day, from that person's perspective, you made their day. They may not know what you did the previous night or what you've done. But if you say give a homeless man $50 or whatever, and he uses that money to go buy himself food, genuine, a genuine thing, you've made that person's day regardless of what your actual reason for it is. I know a lot of very wealthy people donate money to charity. Now, when you donate money as a wealthy person, you can write it off on your taxes. Yeah, it's a tax write-off. That's great. It lowers my tax bracket. That's nice. But you're also doing something nice. It is something nice. Philanthropy is a good thing if you ask me. Now, that being said, this idea of people always being positive is literally impossible. And that's because of our insecurities as human beings. So if you see somebody out there that's always being positive all the time, that's why I try to be more real. Because if you're always positive all the time, or you're pretending to be, it's fake. It's definitely fake. And again, you should try your best to help people if you genuinely want to, but we all know that life is not like that. Life has its ups and downs. Nobody has a perfect life. And so it makes you wonder, it really makes you wonder, what is true happiness? Because at this point in my life, and this might seem like a cynical thing, I don't know if true happiness is even possible. In fact, I'm willing to bet that it's not. You can be happy for a time, you can be happy for a long time, but something will happen, whether it be anything from a flat tire to a breakup to a fight with one of your friends, that will be a negative event in your life. It's unavoidable. I don't care if you're a prince or a pauper. But the question is, you see people out there who are always, positive and always thinking bright and thinking, happy smiles all the time, but that's just, it's not true. It's just not true. And it all comes down to our perception of who we are as animals. Now, human beings can never be 100% happy no matter how much they pretend that they are. And then when they do pretend, it comes off fake. Now, a good example of this is if you watch the Matrix films. Now, the Matrix sequels are nowhere near as good as the first film, but there are some interesting philosophical questions raised in that film and statements made, mostly with the creation of the Matrix, and that is the fact that which we find out from Agent Smith in the first film and from the architect in the second film that the original Matrix they programmed, and there's something to this, I'm going to get to it in a minute, was a perfect utopia where nothing bad ever happened. Right? It was a perfect, flawless world. Like, imagine a perfect world with no racism, no sexism. We're all equals. We're all happy. And the humans rejected the Matrix. They rejected it subconsciously. They could not accept it. And the reason why that is, even though it's not explained in the film, is because we as people can never accept a perfect utopia. Maybe if we die and go to heaven, but that's not us as people. That's our spirits, if you believe in heaven or in an afterlife or whatever. But here on Earth, as humans, as animals, which is what we are really, we can't. And that all goes back to our insecurities because of our survival mechanisms. So when you get, let's pretend that you had all this freaking power. Because I think a lot of people say, oh man, if I was a millionaire or if I was a multimillionaire, I would never have any problems. No, you would. You would. And I'll tell you why. The more you have, the more you have to lose. Let's say you have multiple millions of dollars, you have a beautiful wife, you have, a nice house, all these things that everybody wants to have. Everybody on earth pretty much wants these things. You know what I mean? We want someone to share our life with, who we can trust, a nice house, maybe a nice car. I think that's one thing we all have in common as humans. Very small minority don't agree with that. So the one thing that's going to eat at you and eat at you and eat at you is your insecurities of losing that heaven on earth. We cannot ever experience heaven on earth because we're always going to be worried and fearful of losing it. And then what ends up happening is our worries and our fears create anxiety. And then this anxiety can manifest itself in passive aggressive or aggressive ways. If you have anxiety, sometimes you'll start to lose control of who you are, and you might yell at your girlfriend or your wife or your boyfriend or whatever. You might, become more controlling, because that's one thing I've noticed is the more that you covet and the more that you have to lose, the more that you want to control those things. And the scary part about that is that you can't control other people. You know what I'm saying? And I know it sounds very weird for me to say that's a bad thing, because I'm not trying to come off like a controlling person, but you know what I'm talking about. Like, if you're with somebody and they make you happy and one day they decide to leave you, you can't force them to stay. It's impossible. And if you put yourself in their shoes, let's say you wanted to leave someone, they can't force you to stay either. I mean, how would you feel if you didn't like a situation, you wanted to leave, and then the other person just wants you to stay, and you'd be like, no, I'm gone? It would actually piss you off the more they want you to stay. And that's the scary thing about life, is because every human wants something different. Like I said, we all want like that comfort and security. Because every human wants something different, that utopia is not possible, both from a collectivist perspective, like everyone, and also from a perspective of an individualistic point of view, aka us as people individually. We can't handle it. We cannot handle it. We cannot handle a perfect life. There will always be something stressing us out. Even if we have everything, our stress is going to be losing everything. See what I'm saying? And that's a fact. That is a fact. I mean, I'm sure there's people out there who are better at controlling it, who probably take medication, maybe do some, maybe they're so secure in themselves, which again, that's great if you are, that they'll never lose anything, but that's not how life works. I've lived on Earth for quite some time now, and I think I'm older than a lot of my viewers, even though my analytics state that most of my viewers are pretty much around my age, or at least a big chunk of them are close to my age. Still, like, I know young people, they all want to be successful, which again, you should want that, absolutely, and you deserve it if you work hard for it. But understand that even if you become successful, it ain't going to solve all your problems. You're still going to have days where you wake up sick. You're still going to have days where you wake up and, your girlfriend's mad at you for whatever reason, or you screw up. And, and also it's just one of those things where even if it's not even about success financially or even romantically, anything in life, if you're happy, happiness is only temporary. And I know it's a very cynical perspective, and I don't want to give people the point of view that life sucks, but it is only temporary. So the point is that nobody can ever truly be 100% positive no matter what. It's just how it is. It's just you can't be that way. You know what I mean? Human beings are incapable of it. Because the minute that we stop being scared to lose something is the minute that we accept failure and death. And nobody wants to do that. You know, nobody wants to do it. And obviously I'm talking about, like, when I say nobody, I'm talking about the majority of people. There's obviously people who have other issues that I'm not going to address here. That's a different video. But, you know, we don't want to die. Because if we wanted to die, we would already have, you know, done the unthinkable if we really wanted it. And some people have. I'm not going to talk about that here. I'm saying in general, we're here to survive and thrive and, you know, eat the best food and hang out at the nicest places and buy the nicest clothes. We all want that. You know, we want to live comfortably. Doesn't have to be rich, but I mean, you know, live comfortably. But once you get that comfort, you're going to want more and more and more, or you're going to be afraid to lose what you already have. And it's, to me, I was just thinking about that. More of a philosophical discussion, you know, on this video. So that's all I have to say about that. Never ever think that someone's life is perfect, because I assure you, I promise you, something is going on that's bugging them. Online, in the real world, life happens. That's all I have to say about that.